Alright, in this video I am going to demonstrate how I have taught students to use a protractor to both measure angles as well as draw angles. So there's an angle here, and I'm just going to show you exactly the steps that I have taught students in the classroom. So we have talked about our protractor. I'm going to lay it just below the angle real quick to point out a few important parts of the protractor. There is center here, and depending on the protractor that they're using, they should be able to find center fairly easily. It's typically along the bottom, along the straight edge. And on these protractors that we're using in the classroom, there's a horizontal line that meets a vertical line, and that point where they meet is considered center. There's also the 0-degree line, which goes both directions. So students know that they need to first take their protractor, lay it on top of the angle that they're measuring, and they want to line up center with the vertex. And then you can see how I've lined up 0 degrees directly on top of that ray. Let me move this just so the glare is not so bad. So now that I've got my vertex and 0 lined up, then I can look at the other ray and follow it up to where it meets the numbers that are placed on the protractor. So this one crosses directly on top of 60 degrees and 120 degrees. So in class, I've told students, before you ever even measure, look at the angle itself and ask yourself, is it an acute angle or is it an obtuse angle? And that should help them to narrow down which of these numbers makes sense. So since we can see that this angle is an acute angle, we know that we want to go up with the lesser of the two values. So this angle here would be a 60-degree angle. And again, that would be considered acute. If the angle measurement that they're measuring is between the numbers, in 4th grade we just tell them to go ahead and estimate or round to the center. So in this case, if it had gone, just for example, if it had gone between the 60 and 70, then we would call it 65. Now I'm going to teach you how to draw an angle. So I'll just flip this over here. And let's say we want to draw an angle that's, 150 degrees. So right away students should be able to say, oh, well, that's obtuse. So the angle that I draw when I'm finished should look like an obtuse angle. So step 1 is to simply just draw a ray using the straight edge of the protractor. Lift that off, and you can put your point on either end. I guess I'll put mine on this side just to show that you can do it either way. And put your arrow on the opposite end. So because my ray is pointing to the left, whenever I place my protractor on it, and I line it up at center and 0, I want to make sure that I'm reading my numbers from 0. So I want to use this outer range of numbers instead of the inner because this does not start at 0. So I want to follow this outer range of numbers until I get to 150 degrees. So here I am passing the 90-degree mark, which makes me know I'm right since it's an obtuse angle. And here I get to the 150 degree. I am going to put a point right outside of that angle measurement. And then I would just simply lift my protractor up, use the straight edge to connect both of those points carefully, and sometimes it takes 2 hands. And then I'm just going to run my pen along there to connect those points, and then add an arrow on the other end. So this created an angle that measures 150 degrees. Now, of course, after I finish, I've taught students that the best thing to do after you're finished is to check your work. So they would place their protractor back on top, line it up at 0, and then just double check that it truly does cross at 150. So that, in a nutshell, is how we draw angles.